Okay, I think I might start slowly, and we will have probably more people joining. Um, but let's start. And thank you for joining today again. And today, as I mentioned, we will be talking about changing habits, part two. Last week we talked about different elements of change, how you can add habits to your life, and how you can get rid or stop bad habits that doesn't serve you in your life. Today we will talk more about changing and habits, and we will cover it. I will recap quickly what we have talked about last week, but before that, I would like to start by talking about something we didn't talk about last week, and that is some life principles that personally I've learned last year, and I've been practicing those principles. They are helping me through not only change, but any situation, any feeling, anything that we are going through in life, anything that I am aiming to do or want to do. I try to see where those elements and how can I apply them in any situation. Before I go a bit deeper into talking about those principles, just as a reminder, as I mentioned before, I am doing this project as part of my project Arts of Life, and I started this idea around a year and a half ago, and it's basically, the aim is to help as many women and people who are looking to transfer their life, who are going through difficulties or challenges and looking to find strength in themselves, and as I been through a lot of changes and a lot of different situations in my life, I feel that I can support a lot of people in their journey as a coach, coaching and directing people. I definitely believe that all of us have the strength to do the change. Maybe we need some guidance to do that, and this is where I feel that I can help. And so I arranged those topics. They are for free, and I hope they will be beneficial for all of you. So what is the life principles? Just to let you know, I've joined last year a program called Flow 60. The idea of the program was to connect the mind and the body, which I was not sure what it means, but I felt the necessity to know more about. And I would say after joining that program, I've learned so much about the connection that we have between our mind and our body, and how they are not separated, they are one. They affect each other. And we can change one to change the other, and we can change both to change our energy and move forward with so many things that we would like to do. So the first principle that I would like to share with you today is around awareness of our mind and our body. And what does that mean to me is basically in any situation, in any feeling, whenever I am doing something that doesn't need any focus from me, I found my mind wandering. And maybe, I think if you drive, you might be able to relate that you would be driving to a road that you are very familiar with, and from the time that you start driving to the point that you get to your destination, you don't know how you get there. You don't know how did you where your mind was during this time. You're just driving, you think you're focusing on the driving, but you realize at some point that you were not aware of where your mind was during this time. or where you was at that time. So I found one of the practices that brings a lot of awareness to us, and it's kind of a practice that we do, and it's so we can catch ourselves during the day. So the breathing techniques were one of the techniques that I've learned that was very simple, but at the same time they were very life changing. The idea is to sit in a nice relaxing position and inhale deep inhales, feel the air filling your lungs and your stomach, and then exhale for a very long time, longer than what you would breathe normally, and repeat this for 5-10 times, as much as you feel needed. And be aware of that breath. Be aware of how you're feeling in your body when you're inhaling all the way in, how you feel in your body when the air is inside your body, and what does it feel when you're exhaling all the air out, and what is happening when there is no more air in your lungs. And that practice is kind of training our mind to be aware of what is happening, and maybe in the future you will be able to catch yourself with the thought that is going in your mind, so you will be more aware of the mind and what is going. Because normally when we are not aware of our thoughts, those thoughts that we have might create some feelings, and suddenly we might feel annoyed, stressed, angry, upset, sad. Whatever the feeling is probably fed by a thought that we might be conscious or not very conscious about. So being able to catch our thought will help us then in stop that thought, and then work on the breath to support the feeling and change it, which will change the mood completely. So I would like with you, if you can, just wherever you are, however you're sitting, just try to do this practice for 2 times. Try to sit in a relaxing position and take a very deep inhale, feeling in your lungs and your stomach, and then we will go through the long exhale. So it will go like that. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. Exhale. Whenever I do this exercise, I am every time surprised by how it changed my energy completely and makes me feel more relaxed, more focused, and I can see the change in my energy. And the reason I'm bringing this practice to the topic of habits is because one of the main things that we need to learn when we are doing any change in our habits is that we're aware of those habits. We are aware that we have this habit, we want to add it or we want to change it. And being aware is a skill by itself that we need to practice, because a lot of us, in for so many different reasons, we are not aware of why we need to do that change, or why we are feeling that way, or why we want to get rid of this habit. So the awareness is missing in so many instances. So being aware and doing this practice to increase your awareness is one of the first things that I would like to talk about. The second one is also related to habits, and related to so many things, and that is repetition creates habits and mastery. I remember the first time I did stand in front of a class. I was 20 years old and my legs were shaking. I I think I considered myself before as a very shy person who would never imagine to be talking in public. And I still remember the students were looking at me and my legs were shaking, and I sat on this chair and I pretended that I'm giving them time to be quiet, but in reality, it was me trying to calm myself down and be able just to open my mouth and talk to the students. And I think what made me get to the level where I am confident in doing this over and over is just doing it over and over, actually. So it wasn't a skill, maybe it was, but it was a hidden skill. Um, I was not born as someone who can stand and talk naturally and very confidently and relaxed when I'm talking to people. I was just putting myself in that situation over and over again until I get to the point where I really don't mind it. Um, so, and the same is with any habits. It might not be something that we are created with. It might not be something that is comfortable to do, but it is definitely something that will get better with practice and with repetition. It's only about repeating it. It doesn't matter. At some point, I'm planning to do exercise every day, no matter what. And some days I feel I'm not the same. I don't have the energy to do it. I don't want to do it. And the only way that I convince myself to do it is just do what I can do today. And to be able to do it every day, I really just need to do it every day. So if I stop doing it today because I don't feel like it, then it's not gonna become my habit. So repetition is one of the keys to anything that we want to become or anything that we want to add to our life. And I think whoever attended the session last week, we talked about how we can how we just become what we do. So life is a practice, and whatever we want to do, we just need to keep practicing that. If we want to be healthy, we need to do healthy actions to become healthy. If we want to become a public speakers, we need to do public speaking to become a public speakers. So practicing is what make us what we want to become. We can't become something if we're not practicing it. And through practice, I mean repetition. Just keep repeating it, keep doing it, no matter how uncomfortable it might seem. It will get easier, and we don't have to do the same amount every day. Different days might be different, so we can do something. Today I can do 60 minutes. Tomorrow I don't feel like it. I might be just doing 30 minutes, and then I go back to the 1 hour, and then I keep doing it no matter how much I can do every day, because we are also changing as a human being. So it's do whatever is good for you on that day and just keep doing it. And just on that, I had someone asking me about motivation. How can I stay motivated in doing my the work that I need to do? And my answer to that question is motivation is not something that lasts forever. No one can be motivated about something always, all the time. We're always changing. We're always at the beginning we have a lot of motivation that will keep us that will kick the start, that will help us to start something, to make a decision of starting it. But then the motivation will be going up and down. And with knowing that, we need to make sure that we have a small practice that we do every day, no matter what our motivation is, and not rely on our motivation to continue doing something. The third principle that I want to share with you today is about maximum effort 70%. And when I learned this principle, actually, it changed my life a lot, because I was always aiming for 100%. I was always trying to achieve the 100% in everything I'm doing. And I was not doing a lot of things because I know I can't reach the 100%. So whenever I feel that I need to reach 100% and I know it's difficult or I'm not sure that I can get to the 100%, I will find so many excuses not to do it. And learning that 70% is enough actually made me become more motivated to do more stuff, because I know that today's 70% might be different from tomorrow's 70%. So every day there is a 70% that I can do on that day, and it will be enough for that day. I don't have to reach the 100%, the same 100% all the time. So it is one of the eye-opening principle for me that I really feel it might benefit many people, knowing that who cares, just do your best, do the 70%, aim for it, and aim for this different 70% on that day. One day, this is my 70%, I can do 10 squats. The second day, my 70% is doing 15 squats, for example. So that's it. Every day is different. Every day I aim for my 70%, whatever that is. And with that, it feels like that's much easier, and that's less responsibility for me to reach something that I am dreaming of reaching without doing anything because I know I can't reach it, if that makes sense. So, so this is one of the principles that I think applies for any habit, any change, any action, anything that we want to do in our life. Looking after our kids, stop smoking, losing weight, work that we do. Just aim for the 70% in anything, and reaching that 70% is good enough. And of course, keep in mind that this 70% is different from one day to another. Before we move to the rest of them, is there any question? Anyone would like to add or comment on any of those principles so far?
I like that 70% explanation. I never actually thought about it. I always said in my head that yes, I don't have to actually do 100%. However, I never thought about actually imagining a number, which is good. I think it's really good strategy.
Yeah.
It's really good strategy.
Thank you, Jilka. Actually, it really helped me a lot because, I was always aiming for the 100% and always criticizing myself if I couldn't reach it, or even stopping the whole thing that I know that I'm not going to be able to do it. So, yes, thank you.
Thank you. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, and forgive me if I'm not, but Zelchka, I agree with you. I think it's kind of unattainable and unrealistic to expect 100% when you're just building a new habit, especially if it's something that's challenging for you, whether it's mentally or physically or it's a circumstance. So the fact that you said 70% is actually very motivating, because, and I take this back to the last conversation we had when you said that motivation is temporary. I think that motivation is temporary. I agree with that 100%. But if you try to build small steps and you try to reach them incrementally, even though 70% is a little bit big, it's not small, but it's not 100%. So you're not expecting perfection, and that's more attainable and realistic.
That's it. Thank you, Rayan. Exactly, that's it. So, yes, I agree with both you, Rayan and Joka. It's really, it is. It changed us. It changed the way that we're looking at everything that we are doing on our daily basis. Let's go back to the principles, and with the one that we want to talk about now is staying calm and relaxed. One of the things that I tend to do a lot as well is stressing about things that could be sometimes out of my control. And this principle is basically around being calm and relaxed, especially in the things that we don't have control over. And one of the things that I learned to do is to check, is there anything I can do in this situation, or it's not, it's out of my control. I don't know if many of you know, but I moved from Sydney, Australia to Emirates recently, and during that time I was doing everything on my own. I was preparing, I was closing my a lot of things, you know, like selling my car, ending my rent, selling my stuff, and doing all the bits and pieces. And during that time, I was having so many stressful moments where I was stressing for something that I think, or I don't know if it will happen or not. And I was just building different scenarios in my head. And during this time, whenever I am aware of this thought, whenever I am aware of this feeling that is overwhelming me, I would go back and ask myself, is there anything I can do in this situation, or am I just building scenarios in the air and getting stressed because if this happened then that will happen, and I don't know if the first thing is gonna happen or not. So whenever I notice that it's out of my control, there is nothing I can do about it at this moment, I take my breaths, deep breaths, and I repeat that over and over until I feel that I'm better, I'm more calm now, and I can tell myself confidently that when it comes I will be able to solve it. But I'm not gonna think about something that is not happening yet. So keep that in mind, that sometimes we stress about things just because we think we need to stress about them, even though stress is not gonna serve us in any way. And again, breathing is one of the things that will help us to practice awareness and help us also to become calm in any situation that is not serving us. The stress isn't for no purpose. One of the practices that I want to bring here as well is also practicing total focus. And the focus is one of the things that we might find difficult. I do practice meditation a lot, and the way that I look at meditation is a practice of focus. And to expand more on that, the idea of focusing on my breathing or focusing on one point that I am looking at is allowing me to see that I have thoughts that will come and interrupt this one focus that I'm trying to keep. And knowing that and trying to drop the thoughts and go back to the breathing or to the one point that I am looking at is the practice. So I've been always like, I had so many people telling me I cannot do meditation, I'm not good at it, I cannot do it, and full stop, like it's not for me, I can't do it. And I always feel like, let me explain it to you and then you tell me if that makes sense or not. The idea of meditation is not the idea of sitting and forcing your mind to be quiet, because if you're trying to force your mind to be quiet, now, exactly like if I am telling you now, don't think about an elephant. Immediately, you will think about the elephant, you will visualize it, you will see it. And if you're trying to tell your mind, stop thinking, and you're trying to force your mind to stop thinking, then you are thinking more about stopping thinking. And you're stressing more in the meditation and nothing is happening. And you're immediately in maybe 30 seconds, you'll think, not working for me, I can't do it. Instead, in the meditation, practice focusing. And that means when you are sitting in calm and relaxed position, whether you are sitting or laying down or on a chair or however is comfortable. Make sure it's comfortable, and don't worry about all the media kind of promotion of meditation that you need to sit and put your legs together and it's painful and it's numbing and you're not comfortable in the seat. Don't worry about that. Just find a comfortable seat wherever that is. Make sure you're relaxed. Make sure that whether you want to close your eyes or that feels overwhelming to you, don't worry about that. Just make sure that your eyes are soft and relaxed. And try to see what would be the next thought that will come to your mind. So instead of forcing yourself to stop thinking, focus on your breathing, because we need one point to focus on to see the distraction. We can't just be, for example, if I tell you sit and don't move, then you will notice the need to move. But if you're moving normally, you wouldn't feel that you need to move because you are doing it without being focusing on it. So the idea of meditation and how it helps you to focus is that you are focusing on your breathing so you can notice the thoughts that will come to your mind, and that will increase or the practice of focus. When you see the idea coming, you drop that idea gently and nicely and you tell yourself, okay, I'm not gonna think about that. I will go back to focus on my breathing. And you go back to focus on your breathing, and maybe in 2 seconds the other idea will come again. So I think when I realized that about meditation, it changed the way that I look at meditation. It's not a force and torture to myself to sit and stop thinking. It's actually a practice to notice. It's a practice to focus, and by having one point that I want to focus on, I notice the distraction, I stop the distraction, and I go back to focus. And you can do it for 1 minute, 2 minutes, half an hour, 20 minutes, as much as you feel you are willing to do the 70% that you can do on that day. And it's up to you. There is no, and that takes me to the second point, which is no judgment, no competition, no comparing. You are not competing with anyone. There is no a gold number of meditation that you need to achieve. There is nothing to be or no one that you need to compare yourself with or compete with. It's something that you are doing as a game. Take it as a play with it, play with the idea of focusing and practicing that focus, and notice how your brain is keep distracting you, because our brain loves to take control. And whenever your brain is jumping to take control, just tell your brain, not now, relax, drop the idea, I want to focus on my breathing. So that, enjoy it, make it as something enjoyable, as something as a practice, as a practice to focus. See how much you can focus. Again, one day might be easier than the others, and it's all about being aware of that, being able to notice that and see it, and don't judge it. Just see it and observe it and drop it and go to the next day and see what the next day will bring for you. And always, which is the seventh principle, always expand your limitation. Today I can do, for example, 10 squats and that's it. Maybe I will do just the 11 and I will stop. Just a little bit that is like, okay, I'm done. One more and that's it. And I'm done now. So we are setting a comfortable target and we are trying just to extend it tiny bit to keep growing as well. Those are the 7 principles that I've learned around a year and a half ago. I've been practicing them in everything. They help me in so many different situations, and I hope they do the same for you. I would like to hear if you have any comment or anything that you would like to add before we move to the next point. I think there is something. Yes, yes. I know, Ryan, about yes the feeling of boredom or the idea that sometimes when we try to quiet our mind or relax too much, we fall into just feeling that we want to sleep. Um, and what we want to do is to be comfortable in a position, trying not to be comfortable to the level where we sleep, and just focus on one thing, and not completely get to the point where we sleep. Again, it's a practice of focus, and sometimes when the brain feels that it can't say anything, it's just like, okay, let's sleep then.
Yeah, I think I really liked and admire what you said about how we should not dismiss the thoughts that we're having because they can be distracting, yes, but at the same time, it's important to acknowledge them because to dismiss them, you're just sort of like almost lying to yourself to an extent.
Yes.
And they're going to come back at another time. So it's important to acknowledge them and not judge them and feel them, but also at the same time try to focus. And obviously, it takes practice, like you said, because it's very easy to just numb your mind with using different methods, whether it's substances, whether it's sleep, whether it's, there's different methods to do that. But to be able to recognize what you're thinking and what you're feeling at different times, I think is a strength that we should embrace. So I really appreciated what you said about how to practice meditation and also how to expand yourself, because it's very easy to try to say, this is my goal, I've met my goal, all right, that's enough, I've done it. But to push yourself an extra mile, I think speaks a lot to your character. So that's very important. So yeah, I really like these principles. Thank you, Najla.
Thank you, Ryan. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. And the idea of denying our thoughts or feelings is something, maybe from my experience, that I grow up with that culture that you don't, something that is very emotional, for example, or and just don't ignore it, don't think about it, don't like just hush hush kind of thing, don't think about it, don't acknowledge it, don't even between you and yourself acknowledge that you have this thought or this feeling. But it is a strength, as you mentioned. It is a huge thing to say, well, I am afraid of this, or I am thinking about this and this thought. And the idea of bringing it up and acknowledging it will make it relax in a way. The idea itself, it's not suppressing it, so it keeps wanting validation in different ways. Sometimes we suppress our fear, and it comes in, as you said, in different substance or addictions that we might do, because we are having feelings that we're not acknowledging with ourselves. And once we do that, we will be able to the idea itself will calm down in a way. I don't know, it's very in many situations I've seen that. I've seen, for example, I will tell you one example. When I was starting to know more about how I can build a business, I was trying, one of the motivation speakers were talking about how you need to have a great goal, have the drive and the passion to do what you want to do. But at this, and I was having all of that, but I also noticed that part of me wants to build a business that I can rely on in my living. And for some time I was trying to ignore that, like, no, I just want to do it, I just wanted to do something that is good. and one day I was writing all the things, and I wanted to write everything and be honest. And even with me, between me and myself, when I was writing all the things that why I want to build my business, I hesitate to write that down. But then when I wrote it, it was there, and I thought that, yeah, okay, that's fine. It's not a big deal for it to be there, and it might not be my 100% focus, but I acknowledge that it's there. So inside me, I felt the fear of acknowledging something disappeared completely, because now I acknowledge it. Yes, this is it. One of my friends were also telling me about on social media, how she likes to take a lot of photos, and she was not sure, like, oh, should I continue doing it or not, and stuff like that. And we were talking about that, and I just mentioned that whatever it is, the reason that you're doing it for, acknowledge it, and then you will feel the urge of doing it or not doing it will disappear. It will be fine to acknowledge that, yes, this is the reason why I want to do it, and this is the reason why I don't want to do it, and all is okay, and whatever I want to do at the end is fine. It's not something that I have to hide and be struggling with, and just the whole struggle will disappear once you acknowledge all your thoughts, all your fears, all your feelings. It will completely calm down. Okay, thank you very much. So I think we are coming to almost an end, but I am going to talk quickly about the steps of any change. I know we talked about them last time, but I will just recap quickly, because I feel they're one of the important things that we can keep in mind and just benefit from remembering them. So the ideas that we talked about last time about the steps of any change is, the first one and the most important one is knowing the why we want that change. I will work with you on a small practice, and we will talk about the why. Sometimes the why is for something else that we are not aware of, and it's not our goal, it's not our why. We just want to do something because everyone is doing it, or because everyone is saying it's good. So knowing exactly why we want to do anything, any change, is very important, and it's always the starting point, to be aware and to know why you want that change to happen in a very specific and deep way. So don't accept the first answer that comes with the why. Go deeper. For example, I want to sleep early. Why do you want to sleep early? Because it's good. And why is that good for you? What does it mean for you to sleep early? How does it benefit your life? How does it change something? What do you want to achieve by doing this goal? What is the achievement? Which is another thing that we talked about last time, of creating change, not with goals, but with achievements, things that you want to achieve as a new identity for yourself, not with a goal that you want. For example, I want to do this as my new goal. I want to change my whole life, so I want to achieve something that is bigger than just a small goal. It's an identity, or it's a change of identity. I want to become something, and all my habits need to fall into that thing that I need to become. So if I want to become, for example, successful, then what does a successful person do? How do they act? How do they eat? How do they move their body? How do they, how do you imagine? Try to visualize the picture of yourself being successful, and how that version of yourself will be acting, moving, doing, practicing, talking to people, walking, all the small details, and that will bring the habits that you want to do. So when you build this identity and you know what you want to become, then all the habits that you're going to do will feed into that new identity that you want to become. So sleeping early then will help me to wake up early, to be able to achieve my goal, to feel more energetic, to do everything that I need to do during the day, and not wake up in the middle of the day feeling, like, well, whatever, my energy is, and my day is just halfway and I'm not motivated to do anything. So if I want to become successful, I need to sleep early, and that makes it way more important than just wanting to sleep early because that's what everyone is saying is good for me. So this is the why. This is the deepest few layers under just the first why that you might come up with. The second step of change is noticing when you do the old behavior, and that's very normal and very natural, and we need to acknowledge that whenever we are introducing a new behavior, we will have go back points where we will do an old behavior, whether it's a stressful moment where the old behavior seems very tempting to do. For example, for me, emotional eating is one of my weak points. I always try to keep myself eating healthy and watching how I'm reacting to when my body is reacting when I'm not being healthy. But it seems whenever there is a big change in my life, change of routine, when I am not in a good mood or there is stress around me, I tend to get back to my old habit. And I noticed that, and I remember always, tomorrow is a new opportunity, or maybe the next meal is a new opportunity. So I try to I leave that what I've done aside, and I just continue the next moment as a new start for me to do my best, do my 70%, and do what I can do on that day. So the key here is noticing the old behavior. The key here is noticing that, okay, I didn't just go back to the old behavior and I went off track and I lost where I was starting and my motivation and where I wanted to be. Immediately I noticed the old behavior. I noticed that I did go back to my old behavior, and drop it immediately and go back to where you are heading towards. In the third step of change, of any change, we will be tempted to do the old behavior. For example, if I am still, and we talked about this last week, if we are still thinking about, yes, I'm going to the gym every day, you talk to your friends, I'm reading one page every morning or every night before I sleep, and you keep talking about it, then it is still not a habit yet. You are still building that habit. You are still you have the tempt to talk about it, to maybe not doing it, but you are still happy that you are still doing it. So talking about it means there is something still driving you back to the old you, and that's why you keep talking about it, you keep thinking about it, you keep telling yourself, look at me, I'm doing this, I'm so good, I've been doing it now for 6 weeks, 6 months, whatever. As long as you are thinking about it in that way, as long as you are still thinking about the old behavior, then you're not yet in the change, in the complete change, in the complete shift of your identity. And I brought the example of smoking, and how during the time that I was still telling everyone I stopped smoking for 6 months, I haven't been smoking for 8 weeks, for 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, for as long as I kept saying that, I was still considering myself as a smoker who is still stopping the smoking behavior. When I completely forgot about it, when I completely stopped saying that I have stopped smoking for now 8 years, when I stopped saying that, it means that I become the new identity. I don't need to keep saying I have quit smoking for 8 weeks now or 8 years now. I stopped. So I am not a smoker anymore. And this is one of the last step that that the change had happened, when you remember your old self and you think, I used to do that, but it's no longer me. Same with public speaking, for example. I remember the first moment that I was shaking. My whole body, my heart, my body, everything in me was shaking, and I always remember. Times when I was saying I hate public speaking, especially after a while with students, it becomes like natural. But any new incident, for example, if I'm sitting in a gathering and everyone suddenly stop talking and listening to me, I will feel like, oh, my throat is dry, I don't know what to say, I lose my words, I freeze. And and I continue practicing that and thinking to myself, I hate public speaking, I don't like to talk in front of people, until I stopped. And this is where I become like, okay, I remembered the old self of me, but it's no longer who I am, or how I identify myself. Um, so this is where the last step of change happen, when we know that we no longer associate ourselves with the old behavior, and we found ourselves remembering it as an old version of ourselves that no longer exists in us. Now, before we finish, I know we have 4 minutes. If you want to try to write those answers for the answers for those questions, or you want to take a screenshot and try to do them later at home, um, they are questions to help you in any change or habit that you want to do. The questions are, the first one starts with why you want to change, and we talked about that. Do you believe that this change is good for you, or are you doing it for others? Is another question. And of course, be honest with yourself. It's only you. No one will read those answers other than you. It's you knowing exactly where you are and how much you want to do that change. The third question is, what has been stopping you from doing this change? It's also good to list the obstacles and be honest, as we were saying. Be honest, acknowledge them, acknowledge that I don't like this, I found it hard to do this, so you can solve them one by one. Depends on what are the things that were stopping you. And are you willing to start doing what it takes to do this change? So everyone knows what it takes to do the change. Sometimes we look for an easy solution. How can I become fit without really going to the gym and sweating? And no, you know that you have to do that. You know what it takes. So are you willing to do what it takes? And sometimes the answer is no, but we write, like I had sometimes where I feel the need to write yes, even though inside me I know it's no. So I need to go back to the why, and I need to practice again my reasoning and see why I'm not ready to take what it takes. So it's not about saying yes and not doing anything. It's about actually saying no and then looking back to the why and the reason, and what are the steps that I'm expecting from myself, and maybe I can minimize them to become smaller, so I can say yes, I can do that. Similar to what we were saying last week. If an hour exercise seems very hard for you, deep in your heart, in your body, you know you can't do it, then start with 5 and start from there, and then extend your abilities to do more. The fifth question is, where are you at with the change? Rate yourself from 0 to 10. If you want to quit smoking, for example, are you in the 0 point, or are you in the 5? Probably you're not at the 10, because if you're 10, then you don't need to talk about it. And the sixth question is, what is the daily action you need to take for the change to happen? Because for anything that we want to become, as I mentioned in the last 2 sessions, we are trying to change our identity. So we are not changing a habit, or we are not having a goal. We want to have a daily action to practice what we want to become. Whatever that is, there must be a daily actions that we want to take to become what we are trying to create as a new identity for ourselves, or a change or a habit that we want to have. as our new self. And then, of course, the last question is, are you willing to take that action? So if there is actions, if there is daily actions, you notice them, you recognize them, you say, this is the daily action, which is kind of a plan that you're putting for yourself, and then you start committing by saying, yes, I am willing to take that action and I will do it. And start from there. And hopefully you will become the person that you want to become by the daily practice, by the repetition. And as we said, repetition creates mastery. So with that, I know that the time is just now becoming 12. I will quickly ask if you have any question, if you have anything that you want to comment on or add, or before we finish for today.
This was amazing. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
And I wish I attended last week, but I couldn't. It was my daughter's birthday, so I couldn't miss that. But yeah, it's such a great opener, even though like there are so many things that I am familiar with. But when I just pause and sit down and listen, you know, you talking about all of these things and giving great examples, it really resonates with me. It kind of brings me back to, hang on a second, hold on. Yes, you're doing all of this, but yeah, there are certain things that I need to revisit. And yeah, but thank you. That was great.
Thank you,
Well,
Jill.
we're at Friday evening. I don't usually do anything. Yeah, here is Friday evening, so it's been a long week at work, but yeah, it was great. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Jilka. And yeah, it's so easy to get stuck with our thoughts, and we know things, but we, sometimes when we hear it, it kind of brings us back to where we stopped or where we are stuck. So yeah, it's absolutely important, and it's one of the things that we talked about last week as well, the importance of having an environment, a supporting environment where we can talk about those topics and remind ourselves, because it was one of the main things that I fail into all the time. Once I've done something for some time, I feel that okay, I'm done, I can be fully independent on it. And it's always beneficial to go back and listen and have a group that will always, remind us and keep us on. It's like-minded people, so we can stay connected to whatever is driving us forward. And thank you very much for attending. Thank you, Omnia, for your comment as well. Yes, so good to have you here, and I'm glad that you found that beneficial.
I have a lot of thoughts, but I don't want to take up too much space. So the one thing I'd like to say is that, I think it's really beautiful that you said that we shouldn't just have a safe space in terms of the environment that we're in, but also build that safe space with ourselves and be honest with ourselves. Like, you really rang the bell when you said that we should be honest with ourselves, because it's very easy to do things to please people, to meet habits, to be people. Like, your why can be just because someone's telling me to do it, or someone's expecting me to do it, or even at a societal level. But to have that honesty and real relationship with yourself, to build that connection with yourself and try to trust yourself to say and acknowledge these things that are bad habits or good habits, and understand why you're doing them, I think is really important. And I'm definitely going to ask for a consultation, because I have so much to say. But really, thank you so much for your time and for talking to us today. It really means a lot to me. So thank you, Najla.
Thank you very much, Rayan. And this will be one of the topics that I'm preparing. It's inspired from a book, amazing book that I've read. It's called The Courage to Be Disliked. And it talks about how we can build confidence in ourselves and just be who we are authentically and accept it. And it doesn't matter if others don't see it the same way. why. And it's honestly one of the things that I've read this book maybe 4 times. Every time I was just feeling, I always express it that way. I feel the words I just want to hold and just take them and hold them somewhere, because every time I read it, it was so good. So I'm planning to do another session about that topic, and how we can reach the full acceptance of ourselves no matter what. So yeah, so stay tuned. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely morning and evening, afternoon, and hope to see you next week. Bye.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.